Hey, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on another episode of ToJo Live. We are glad you're here.
Welcome to ToJo Live.
There you go.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on another episode of ToJo Live, where we are here to discuss your questions about life, faith, and the church. We would love to have you come on screen and ask your question. You can do that by copying and pasting the link that Tammy will eventually put up in the chat box. For those of you that prefer to just put your question over in the chat box, then you can do that and we will address it as it comes up. And as always, any prayer request or prayer of praises that you may have, we will definitely address those also. All right, we are going to open up with a scripture verse. This comes from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 16 through 18. And it says, "Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and give thanks in all circumstances. For this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." Listen, there's a 3-point sermon right there. Now, I'm not going to preach a whole sermon, but I do want to look at these. It says, rejoice always. Always be rejoicing. Always live with that joy that is within you. Again, joy and happiness are not necessarily the same things. Not that there's anything wrong with happiness, but joy is much deeper than happiness. Happiness is what happens to us and around us. Joy is what takes place inside of us. I have heard people say that in order to experience real joy, you need to use an acronym of the word joy, and it stands for Jesus, others, yourself. You put Jesus first, you put others second, and you put yourself last. That is how people experience real joy. Joy is more long-lasting. Joy is more significant. Joy comes from a deeper place. Happiness is good, assuming that the happiness comes from a good place. But happiness is more short-lived. Happiness, again, is what happens around us or to us. And happiness is not as significant as joy. Because it's hard to be happy when bad things are happening to us. It's hard to be happy when we're sad. It's hard to be happy when things are not going right. But we could still be joyful. Because joy is deeper than what is happening around us. Joy does not depend upon the circumstances that we might be in the moment. Joy is much deeper than that. So rejoice always. Even in the midst of our pain and sorrow and crying, we can experience joy because we know that connection and that relationship that we have with Jesus. So rejoice always, even during the bad times. Rejoice. It doesn't mean you got a big smile on your face. It doesn't mean you pretend like nothing bad is happening. But it's acknowledging what Jesus has done for you and in you that is bigger than any circumstances that you may be going through. It's that joy that you have. So rejoice always. And one of the ways we can rejoice always is to pray without ceasing. Now, to pray without ceasing, does that mean that we walk around all the time with our heads bowed and our eyes closed? Well, hopefully not, because that's going to put us in very dangerous situations. It's hard to drive. It's hard to eat. It's hard to walk down the hallway with our eyes closed and our heads bowed, right? First and foremost, you don't always have to close your eyes and bow your head to pray. Matter of fact, oftentimes in the Bible, they prayed by looking up not by bowing their head and closing their eyes. It says that they looked up and they prayed. They looked up and they spoke to God. You don't have to be closing your eyes and bowing your head. Now, what that is a symbol of humility. We're coming before God and we're bowing to him, acknowledging that he is greater than us. So it's not a bad thing to bow your head and close your eyes. It's an acknowledgement of how great God is and the humility. But praying without ceasing also doesn't mean that we are constantly just always talking to God. We never talk to anybody else. We're just talking to God. Man, I'm a spiritual person. I'm just talking to God. I'm not going to talk about the ball game. I'm not going to talk about the weather. I'm not going to talk about meeting you at a restaurant. I just want to talk about God. All right. So or not just about God, but to God. I want to talk to God. That is not necessarily praying without ceasing either. Have you ever made the comment, oh, yeah, I talk to that person all the time? Now, do you really talk to them all the time? Is every word that you speak directly toward them? Do you speak no other words than just the words you're speaking to them? There's no other time that you're talking to them. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you're speaking to them every second of the day, all your words. But what it does mean is this, is that your communication with them is always open. It's always open. If they need to come to you in the middle of the night and wake you up, you love them enough that you're willing to wake up and talk to them. You're always talking to them. Hey, Mark Hendricks, glad to have you on here, my friend. And so that's what it means to pray without ceasing. You're always ready for that communication with God. And yes, you may have assigned times that you talk. My wife and I, we have assigned times that we get together and talk. We have date nights. We have times in the evenings, most evenings when we get together and we'll chit chat. But that doesn't mean that that's the only times we talk. Why? Because we're always talking. We're always in communication. We're always open to anything the other one has to say, or at least that we should be. And that's what it means to pray without ceasing. We're always open to talking to God. We don't have to wait for an assigned time. Now, it's good to have an assigned time because sometimes we forget to pray. We are not praying without ceasing. And those assigned times reminds us, hey, I need to always be talking to God. So have that assigned time. Have a time set aside each day, maybe multiple times, but at least once a day where you've just set it aside and you're going to talk to God no matter what. But then be open every other second of the day to conversation with God, whether he's speaking to you or you're speaking to him. Man, if just something pops into your head and you want to thank God for it, thank God for it. Don't wait until tonight when you pray before you go to bed. Thank him now. He's listening. He's always listening. So always be praying. Pray without ceasing. We may say amen, but our prayers do not come to an end. So rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances. Remember, rejoice always doesn't depend upon our circumstances. Pray without ceasing is not determined by our circumstances. Give thanks in all circumstances. It specifically says whether we're thankful or not is not determined by our circumstances, because it says to give thanks in all circumstances. Now, it does not say give thanks for all circumstances. You know, if you're going through a tough time, it's not necessarily saying, God, thank you for this tough time. It's going to teach me something. Now, you may want to do that, but that's not really what this verse is saying. What this verse is saying is no matter what you're going through, you got something to be thankful for. Thank God for that. I run a group coaching group called Enthusiasm Mastery. It's for those that have been through my retreat, the enthusiasm experience, and they want to take it to another level. They want to integrate these things even deeper. And so they sign up for the Enthusiasm Mastery coaching group. And one of the things that we have done in that group is on two different occasions, we've gotten very specific about the things that we are thankful for. In one of them, we journaled for a week, 3 things every day for a week that we're thankful for. And then the next month when we met, we took a step further, I guess a step further in as far as accountability. And we decided, hey, we're gonna text each other once a day, one thing a day. We didn't do 3, but we did one. Text each other one thing a day that we're thankful for. And it focuses us. When you begin to look at the things that you're thankful for, when you begin to think about those things, it helps us realize we're really better off than sometimes we think we are. We may have some bad circumstances surrounding us. We may have bad days. Some things may be going wrong. But that doesn't mean that we don't have an abundance of things to be thankful for. Some of you will remember the old hymn called Count Your Blessings. Count your blessings. Name them one by one. Count your blessings. What is it? Things that God has done. If we truly named all of our blessings one by one, we'd spend the rest of our lives just naming our blessings. And it's pretty cool in that text group because, sometimes it's big stuff that we're thankful for, like I'm thankful for a raise or I'm thankful for this. But sometimes it's just, I'm thankful that I was able to get out of the bed this morning. I didn't need any help. I walked into the kitchen. I had food in my kitchen to eat. Stuff like that we take for granted. Maybe we should stop and be thankful. Be thankful for those little things. When we open up our refrigerator door and there's food in there, let's be thankful. If you have money coming in on a regular basis, either weekly or monthly, be thankful. If you have your health, be thankful. There's all kinds of things we could be thankful for. So be thankful in all circumstances. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and give thanks in all circumstances. And then it says this. Listen, these are not just suggestions, folks. For this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. This is God's will. And if we don't do this, we're going against God's will. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but the Bible calls that sin. So if we're not rejoicing always, we're going against God's will. We're being sinful. If we are not praying without ceasing, we're going against God's will and we're being sinful. If we are not thankful in all circumstances, then we're going against God's will and we're being sinful. Now, I don't say that to put anybody on a guilt trip. I say that to emphasize this. Let's do these things out of obedience to God. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and give thanks in all circumstances. So, there you go. I said I wasn't going to preach a sermon, but I guess I preached a mini sermon.
A mini sermon. You had a devotional.
I had a devotional. There you go.
Had a devotional.
All right, here's our quote. And there's many people that have said this. I don't know who said it originally, but it's awesome. Learn from your past, live in your present, and prepare for the future. Learn from your past. Whether you failed or whether you succeeded, everything is a lesson. All your experiences. When we talk about discovering your life purpose, one of the things we talk about is looking at your experiences. What experiences have you had? Because those experiences have taught you things, both your great experiences and your bad experiences. Look at those things and learn from each and every one of those. Learn from your past. Live in your present. Too many times we try to live in the past. We talk about the good old days, or sometimes our failures will cause us to live back there, or maybe grudges that we hold against somebody. And you know what? They've completely forgotten about it. They don't even know that you're thinking about them at all. And it is eating you up inside. Why? Because you're living in the past. Don't live there. Learn from there. Don't live there. Live in the here and now. But listen, there's also people that try to live in the future. Now, I'm more guilty of this than I am living in the past. I am guilty of living in the future. I'm a dreamer. A matter of fact, I'm typically more comfortable in the future than I am in the present. If that makes sense. For those of you that are similar personality style to me, you'll get that. For those of you that are not, you think that was a goofy thing to say. But we got to live in our present. Right now is where we live. This is where we are. There is a reason this is called the present, because it is a gift from God. And we've got to live here. We can't live in the future. We're not there yet. We can't live in the past. It's gone. We can only live in the present. But we can prepare for the future. Don't allow life to happen to you. You happen to life. Here's a way to predict the future. You want to predict what the future is going to be? Create it. That's how you predict the future, is creating it. How do you create it? You prepare and you plan and you follow the plan. You take action and you make those plans come true. You make those dreams come true. You make those goals come true. That's how you prepare for the future. And when you get there, guess what that will be? Your present, which is where you get to live. And you can determine to some extent how you get to live in that present by preparing for the future now, which will later be your present. So, hey guys, as you notice,
There's no Joe.
There's no Joe.
No.
Joe is not even in the country. Joe is actually in China. Him and Laura and Chris, I think, went with them. They are visiting their son and their grandchild over in Shanghai, and they're having a wonderful time. But Joe did send us a video just for you guys, and we're going to watch that video now.
We're gonna hope that it comes up.
Hopefully it comes up.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna leave you up. So, or do you need to think it'd be bigger if we take you down?
Yeah.
All right. So hold on. We'll talk to you guys in a second. Hang on, and I'll start this for you.
Hey everyone. Listen, I'm here in Shanghai with Laura and Chris having a great time. We're at the Jian Temple, which is one of the famous attractions here in Shanghai. So I'll be back on Sunday. Look forward to seeing you all. Have a great ToJo tonight. And again, love you guys. We'll see you next Sunday.
All right. Joe, we love you, man. We're glad that you're having a good time. And I hope you continue to have a good time. And we look forward to you coming back. Joe will be here Sunday. So we look forward to him being back. All right, guys.
I want to say hi to Jill and Bob, I think, are watching.
Jill and Bob, glad to have you on here with us. All right, guys, here's our trivia. What's our trivia scores at this point?
I'm gonna do you like that do Vinny on Sunday morning.
Actually, we're not supposed to do that music until we ask the question.
No, you're right. I am looking desperately. Okay, here we go. In the lead. No, we're gonna give all the ones that are tied.
Start from the bottom.
So we got 1 point for Mark Hendricks, Marianne and Vinny, Aura, Nancy Bennett, and Apollonia Lanham. And the one person with 2 points is Karen Padone.
Karen
There you go.
Badone,
There
the
you go.
reigning champion.
Reigning champion.
All right. Here's our question. What 2 New Testament books were written by brothers of Jesus? What 2 New Testament books were written by brothers of Jesus?
There you go. Let's see who knows.
Now I can do the music.
You're just showing off your whistling skills. Y'all, somebody needs to say how impressive that is, because up until a few years ago, he couldn't whistle at all.
I was in my 30s before I learned how to
He
whistle.
was, no joke.
Of course, I'm 53 now, so, you know, by the time I get into my 60s, I will have been whistling longer than I wasn't whistling. That's a milestone of mine.
That's a milestone.
Yeah, where I get to the point where I've spent the majority of my life whistling. Oh.
I can leave that up if we're waiting.
Anybody got any answers to our question? What 2 New Testament books were written by brothers of Jesus?
I know the answer.
Tammy knows
I
the
know the
answer
Woo!
for the trivia today.
Hey guys, we want to say hello to several of the community groups. I don't know how many local community groups are familiar with the controversy that's going on in one of our community groups, but we want to thank all the ones that are here and that have not been archived. So if you are part of the group that has been archived, but you're joining us from another group, welcome. We're glad you're here. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just ignore me.
Well, you've piqued our interest.
Community groups are funny things. They can be ridiculously informative and helpful, and they can also be ridiculously negative and crazy. So you gotta take it for what it's worth. But we love our community groups.
There you go.
Glen Cove residents are here. Brookville, Locust Valley, Glen Cove, Seacliff, Glenhead, Glenwood, Landing, and Glen Cove neighbors are all here.
All right. Glad to have everybody on here. Hey, guys, I got to ask a question. As we were going through our enthusiasm series. By the way, let me know what you thought about that series. That's really my greatest hits. So, you know, let me know what you thought about that and any questions that you have about that. As we went through the 8 decisions, do you have any questions about those 8 decisions? But somebody asked me in the middle of that series, we were talking about discovering your purpose. And in the midst of that, or maybe it was the engage your heart section. It might have been the engage your heart section. We were talking about your passions, and somebody had a question about, you know, when they were younger, they had a passion for, and I'm not going to say specifically what it was, but they had a passion for something. And then for whatever reason, they did not pursue that. And now they're later in life and they feel like that's still a passion of theirs, but they can't do anything about it now. Because they're so far gone and not so far gone, but so far past that time in their life, and it would require going back to school, significant amount of school, not just, a semester here or there, but significant amount of school and doing all this. And they're up in life now, and they've got grown kids, they've got grandkids, and they're married and they've got responsibilities. And they were asking, do they just forsake that dream? Do they just forget about that dream? Because it's not possible now. And here's my answer. You got to decide for yourself what's possible. Don't allow your circumstances to determine what's possible. If that is strong enough passion that you still feel like that's the direction you want to go, and you've got enough passion to take you through all the difficulties it's going to take to get there, because I'm not saying it's going to be easy, it's going to be difficult. But if you've got enough passion to get you through the difficulties, then go for it. If you feel like you don't have the passion for it anymore to go through all the difficulties, then refocus your passion. But here is the bottom line about all of that. The decision is yours. It's not the circumstances to determine that for you. You make the decision. What are you going to do with your passion? And some people say, well, Tommy, I'm 45 years old. If I go back to school, I'm going to be 49 before I get my undergrad degree. And I'm going to be, 52 at the earliest before I get my master's degree. That's, we're looking at another 7 years of schooling. And I'm 45 years old. I'm going to be 52 or 53 by the end of that. Here's my question. How old will you be in 7 years if you don't go back to school?
Ooh.
The 7 years are going to pass regardless.
Yep. Wow.
It's not, it's not like if you don't go to school, you're going to stay at 45. You're still going to be 52 in the same exact period of time. The only difference is what do you do with that period of time? Do you take those 7 years and continue to regret the fact that you never followed your passion? Or do you take those 7 years and you say, you know what? Regardless of how difficult it might be, I'm going to do it. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not telling you that's what you do. I'm telling you the decision is yours. Does it get more difficult sometimes the older we get? Yes. Yes, it does. That's why it's so important to get this message across to young people. Please, 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 if you are in high school or in college, stop pursuing a career just because of the money. Stop pursuing a career just because of the security. Stop. Because one day you're going to be 45 or 50 years old and you're going to hear some goofball talking about engaging your passion at a church service. And then you're going to go, well, yeah, that's easy for him to say, but I can't do that. It's too late. Which will be a lie, by the way. It won't be too late, but it will be more difficult because you waited so long. Do it now. Do it if you're in high school, you're in college, even if you've graduated college. Well, but that's not what my degree is in. So now, if you haven't gone to college yet, and you've got the decision to take classes or to get a degree in the direction of your passion, then do that. But if you're already past that stage, just because you made a bad decision 4 years ago, does not justify making a bad decision today. God has put that passion inside of you for a reason. Follow through. Now, that doesn't mean that money's not an issue. Oh, just follow your passion. Forget about the money. If you follow your passion, the money will come. There is some truth to that, but that's not 100% guaranteed. If you're passion is playing marbles, you're probably not going to make a living doing that. You could. I don't know. I've never followed the salary levels of professional marble players.
Would they be marblers?
Marblers?
Marblers, because that would be kind of cool. Marblers. Shut up. Doesn't it just have a ring to it?
As
I'm a
long as they're
marbler.
not Marburls.
You have an answer, by the way.
We do. Oh, we have an answer.
Yes, we do.
And this is Jill Arrowwood.
Yep.
Jillian Arrowwood. And she said the Epistle of Jude and the Epistle of James. And you are correct.
Woo! Yay!
That is correct. Both of those books were written by brothers of Jesus, who, by the way, before the resurrection, we had no indication that any of his brothers were followers of his. After the resurrection, Brian Priest says, I'm curious now about professional marbles.
I know, right?
Hey, look it up. There may be people that make a living doing that. I don't know.
They're marblers, I guarantee.
They're marblers.
Marblers.
Yes, so James and Jude, as far as we know, were not followers of Jesus until after the resurrection. There's just something about somebody coming back from the dead that makes you believe them, right? I heard, I think it was Frank Turek. He says, I've got this rule in life. If somebody raises from the dead, I just give them my full attention. I figure they deserve it. And so, and listen, we have a number of people, a lot of Jewish people, like some of the Jewish leaders who rejected it before. There were those afterwards that after the resurrection decided to follow him. Again, because when you see somebody who has died walking around talking to you, you pay attention to that. And so we know that James and Jude, by the way, is short for Judas. Not the same Judas that betrayed him. They just happen to have the same name. And so they have written books. Matter of fact, James played a very prominent role in the early church. Some would even consider him probably one of the main leaders in the early church. We read in the book of Acts how they came back and they talked with James and the others and many of the apostles. They got together. They were working through some theological issues they were dealing with in other places where they had started churches, especially when it came to circumcision and following Jewish laws and that kind of stuff. James was one of the leaders of those conversations. And he wrote the book of James, which, by the way, is Tammy's favorite book in the Bible.
I love the book of James. It's very practical. I like practicality.
It is very practical and is oftentimes compared to the Sermon on the Mount, which is 3 chapters in the book of Matthew.
Yep.
And you will see a lot of parallels between James and the Sermon on the Mount in there, because both of them are very, very practical advice, not very theological in that. You're not going to get a lot of theological discussion in there. It's mostly, hey, because of the theology, this is the way we should live our lives.
Yep. And
so it's very practical application
I like
stuff.
That.
So
I'm a very concrete communicator.
There you go.
And
James was a concrete communicator.
I really, really like that about James.
And so we have a new person on the scoreboard.
We do.
That
Congratulations, awesome. Jillian. And Jillian, do you want us to call you Jillian or Jill? I don't know if you want to go by the shortened version of that. Leave that in the comments. And now you are in the running for bragging rights. We play this game. She's only been here a few times, but we play this up until 7 points, and then at 7 points there's a winner, and then we start all over again. So
yeah, except we keep track of the winners for the whole year, and then we have a end of the year winner.
We do.
And the reason I referred to Karen earlier as the champion is because she won 2024.
Yeah.
And so now we're in 2025 and we're looking at a whole new thing.
Hey, and Brian, let me ask you, how's school going for you, man? He's been in paramedic school. Isn't that what he's been doing? Let us know
Nursing
how you do.
school, I
We
think
have
is what
missed
it is.
you at church. We've missed you at Toastmasters. But I'm really excited to catch up with you and find out what God's doing in your life.
Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely. So I guess just to tie up what I was talking about with your passion, discover what your passions are, and don't let anything be an excuse. Well, my parents want me to do this. Well, this is going to make the most money. Well, this is going to get me off on the summers. Well, this has good benefits. And then listen, I'm not saying ignore that stuff. All of that stuff has to be a part of the conversation. The money, the benefits, all of that stuff has to be a part of the conversation. But they are not the most important part of the conversation. Living out that passion that God has put in your heart is much more important. And like I said, listen, your passion may be something that you're not going to make enough money to live on. And you gotta evaluate that and say, what do I do with that? How do I extend this passion into something that I can make a living doing? And realize Delatoro McNeil, in his book, Stuck Between a Job and a Dream, which is an awesome book, by the way, he put it this way. There's really three kinds of jobs. There's stepping stone jobs, there's dream job, and then there's dead end job. Your stepping stone jobs are the ones that you take on the way to your dream job. And they don't have to necessarily be tied into your dream job. For instance, when I was in college preparing for ministry, I worked at a restaurant. I worked at Cracker Barrel. If you're familiar with Cracker Barrel, I was a busboy. My wife also worked at Cracker Barrel. She was a server. And listen, Cracker Barrel had little to nothing to do with our ultimate careers, our ultimate vocation, our ultimate dream job. But it helped us get there because we needed to make money in the process of preparing for that dream job. And so that's the kind of job we had. And I've had a number of jobs. I've worked at auto manufacturers, Toyota motor manufacturer in Georgetown, Kentucky. I worked that 2 different times. I worked in a pizza place. I worked for, Office Depot for a short period of time. I've had a number of different jobs. I delivered pharmaceuticals for a while.
You were a drug dealer.
I was a drug dealer.
Yep.
They were legal drugs. Okay. And I delivered them to hospitals and pharmacies, not to individuals. But I did that for a while. But it was all to help me get to that place because my dream job at that time was not bringing in enough finances for me and my family to live on. And so I had to have some additional jobs in that. So I was actually doing my dream job at that point, but I was also doing another job to supplement that until I could get to the point where my dream job was bringing in enough finances. And now I've got a couple of jobs that are my dream jobs. And listen, your dream job can be in different roles. And that's what I do right now. One role that I play is pastor of Glen Cove Christian Church. And I love that. I have a passion for that. I have a passion of working with churches and helping them break out of the monotony of the mundane and the mediocre so they can break through their enthusiasm zone. Even if sometimes that means going through the hardship of working with those that don't want to break out of the monotony of the mundane and break into their enthusiasm zone. And I've done that. I love that. I have a passion for that. But as a speaker and as a coach, I fulfill another role in that dream. Very similar dream, a little different role. And with that, I go around, and this past Saturday, I went out to Deer Park here on Long Island, and I spoke at a men's group. It's called the Fight Club. It's a part of what is it, Sound of Heaven Church, and great church, by the way. Just from what I don't know all the inner workings of their church, but from what I saw, it just seems like a very healthy church and what they're doing and the people that they're reaching. But they have a men's ministry group called the Fight Club. What a cool name for a men's ministry group. And they meet from time to time on a Saturday morning for breakfast, and they have a speaker come in, and I got to come in and speak for them, and I spoke on enthusiasm and how to break out of the monotony of the mundane and the mediocre, so you break through to your enthusiasm zone. And it was a great experience. I do a retreat once a year in September called the Enthusiasm Experience, where I work with individuals over the course of a weekend. This is not just a hit them for a half hour and go. This is going in, and we invest a little over 50 hours with a small group of people and help them break out of the monotony of the mundane and the mediocre so they can break through to their enthusiasm zone. And so I have those two different roles that I fulfill, but both of them fulfill my passion. Both of them fulfill my dream. Just happen to be two little different roles. They've definitely got some similarities, but they're still different. And so if you're in something that's your passion, and yet it's not bringing in the finances it needs to in order to sustain you, then make some adjustments. Maybe do something that's not a part of your dream for a while to supplement that income until you can add something else that is a part of your dream, maybe an additional role or something that brings that income up, and you're able to do that, and you can release a stepping stone job. Now, what's the dead end job? A dead end job is a job that you just take because of the money or because of the security or because of the benefits. It doesn't have anything to do with your passion, doesn't have anything to do with your God-given dream. You're just doing it because of the comfort. That's a dead end job. Don't do that. Again, you may do it for a while to get someplace, but if you do that, it's not a dead-end job. It's a stepping stone job. And that doesn't have to be tied in with your dream or with your passion. Develop the self-discipline to do something, even though you may not be overly passionate about it, but you do it well, because we do all things as if we are serving God and not man. We do it with passion. We develop that passion for it. Why? Because it's taking us. We begin as Stephen Covey would say, we begin with the end in mind. So we're doing it now, not because that's what we're going to be doing for 20 years, but we do it because we're working toward an end. So thought that was a great question. And again, the older you get, the tougher it will be. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, it's going to be tougher. And if you decide not to go with that, that's fine. But realize that's your decision. That's not you in a circumstance where you cannot follow your passion. That's you making the decision to make adjustments or go in a different way because you have decided that you do not have the passion to go through all the trouble it would be at this point in your life to get there. And so redirect that passion. Maybe doing something related, maybe doing something unrelated, but a principle is the same. You're helping people in some way or a similar way in that. So, all right. Anybody out there got any questions? You got any questions, Tammy?
I don't. I do have some things that people have been asking me about. The series that we just went through, the enthusiasm series. there are 10 of those messages, and they go back for 10 weeks. They start the first week of January. They are on our YouTube channel. We've
Yeah.
had a lot of people asking about them and wanting to go back to watch them. So if they would like to do that, you can do that on our YouTube channel. And if you're not getting our emails, drop me a comment or inbox the church or me personally. Inbox me your email address. We send out one a week unless there's a death in the church or something like that. But we send out one a week with that week's message attached, along with a calendar of upcoming events. And
Yeah.
so if you are interested in that, we would love for you to jump on and see those. Second thing, there's an interesting tidbit. The term mibster is an informal way to refer to a marbles player. You're welcome.
A mibster.
Mibster. I still think it ought to be a marbler. That just sounds so much better. Look what your mouth does, marbler. That just sounds, that's much more fun to say. Mibster, it sounds like a mobster.
Give us that.
What do you?
Do that for us.
Which
Tim.
one?
The marbler.
Marbler.
Move your mouth the way you did a minute ago.
Marbler. Marbler. You're not supposed to turn that around on me. Today's cleaning day. I'm all
Hey,
gross.
we're informal. Yeah, you could go to YouTube and you could get all of our past messages. You can get all the messages from this series. We have had a lot of people talk about this series. And listen, I've shared with you this before in the series. This is 6 years in the making, coming to this series. I believe this is the most powerful series that we have had since I've been here. And it is a segue, it is a portal, if you will, into the other side of that. Where do we go from here? Matter of fact, we're getting ready to go into a new series Sunday called A Church on the Move. Now, if you've been around here for a while, you've heard us go through that series. And typically that series is a 3-part series. This is the first series I preached when I came here. Matter of fact, I did the first part of that series, the first message of that series, as a trial message before I was even officially here. I was just here for an interview and a trial message. And I did the first part of that series. But the reason I do that is because it is my philosophy of ministry. This is how I lead. This is how I teach. This is the direction I move. And I want to do, used to early on in my ministry, I would pull out my best message, right? What I thought was my best message, my most powerful message with the best illustrations and the best expositions and all of this stuff. And I would just, go in there and just wow people with what I thought was my best message. I don't do that anymore. So I didn't come here with necessarily my best, most powerful message. This is what I came with, my philosophy of ministry. And the reason I did that is so that the church would know exactly where I'm going. I didn't want there to be any surprises. If I come here as your pastor, this is what I'm doing. If you want that, I'm the guy to hire. If you do not want that, I would be a horrible hire, okay? Because you're just going to be frustrated with me the whole time I'm here. But that's God's call on my life, is to lead pastoral ministry in that way. And so when I came here and I gave that series, A Church on the Move, that's basically what I laid out. And we talked about a church that is fueled by love, a church that is fueled by growth, and a church that is fueled by purpose. We did that in 2019 as my first series here. We repeated it in 2021 as we were coming out of COVID. We repeated it again in 2023 as we began to develop a little more stability after COVID. Now we're on the other side of our enthusiasm series, which again was kind of a segue or a portal into a new time. And so we're doing again here in 2025, except this time we're adding a fourth message to it. This time we're going to be looking at a church on the move that is fueled by love, fueled by growth, fueled by purpose, and fueled by enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is that God-inspired fire ignited deep within your soul that drives you to never settle, to live with passion, and turn the world upside down. We have looked over the past 10 weeks about what that means for us as individuals. The fourth message of this upcoming series, we will look at how that applies to us as a church as a whole. How does that apply to Glen Cove Christian Church as a whole? So I'm looking forward to that. Enthusiasm is our theme for the year. This is a portal year as we are moving from one stage of ministry into another. And 2025 is our portal into that. And man, I am excited about what the future holds. But we're still living in the present. Okay? We've learned from our past. We've made some good decisions. We've made some bad decisions. And we have learned from both of those. And that has brought us to where we are right now, which I feel is a good place. I feel like our church I feel like our health is improving and we continue to get healthier and healthier. And the result of that is we're beginning to see some growth within our congregation. We have new people coming on a regular basis. And so that is where we are now. We're living in that present. So we've learned from our past. We're living in the present. And now it's time to prepare for the future. What is in store for us? What is on the other side of 2025? What does 2026 through 2036 have in store for Glen Cove Christian Church? And we're preparing for that now, especially as we look at this theme of enthusiasm here in 2025. So guys, I am pumped. I am in a very good place right now. And I feel like our church is in a very good place. And maybe that's the reason I'm in a very good place. And I am excited and enthusiastic about what the future holds. Doesn't mean everything's going to be easy, because I think we're about to make Satan very angry. And when Satan gets angry, he does stupid stuff in the church to try to stop us, to try to get us off track, to try to get us to give up. But you know what? We've come too far to only come this far. We've got a future ahead for us. We are living in the present, but we're preparing for the future that is ahead. And I am excited about that future. Guys, thank you for being on here tonight. We are almost out of time, and I've got more basketball to go watch after I get off of here. March Madness is in its conference tournament. And listen, we have our open house this Sunday. That's where we open up our home to everybody in the church to come and visit. It's going to be from 12 noon until 7 p.m. You could come for the whole time or just part of it. But we want to open up our house to our best friends, and our best friends are those who are part of Glen Cove Christian Church. And so we invite you to come and be a part of that. We're also going to be doing our basketball tournament. That will start at 1 o'clock. So you got to get signed up before 1 in order to be a part of that. We're going to be watching basketball. We're going to be having conversations. And then at 6 o'clock, we're going to sit down and watch the selection show to see which teams. Now, if you don't care anything about basketball, that's okay. Still come. We'll have fun. We'll have food. We'll have laughs. And we'll have basketball. All right? So come, and if you like basketball, that's just icing on the cake. So I love you guys. We got to get off here. Time has gone by so quick. But hopefully we will see you not only Sunday morning, but also Sunday afternoon at our open house. Love you guys. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you for joining.